Okay, so the long-awaited coastal statement jewelry DIY is here, and I'm using actually North Carolina shells. They are so beautiful. So honestly, I was undecided. I have not made necklaces in so long. Like, I've made earrings for the last several years. So I literally, as you'll see me in this video, was really trying to figure out, like, what did I want the design to look like, which shells that I want to use. And so here I am also deciding on which back. So I'm using a necklace attachment that I had on a different necklace. I have so much jewelry and so many beads that what I did was I'm taking off the necklace findings on centerpieces that I no longer want to use for necklaces and jewelry. So I used the not triple thick, the what is this stuff called? The tight bond, quick and thick, thinking that it would work. You'll see later on it didn't. So keep in mind, you don't want to use the tight bond for your jewelry. You definitely want to use a jeweler's glue like an E6000 or the clear Gorilla Glue, which I no longer use E6000, but I do use the Gorilla Glue because it does the exact same thing and it's lower odor. So it's easier to use. I can use it in the house, even though you do want to use a well-ventilated area. So here I am just making sure to attach the finding to the back. I prefer ordering these findings online because they can be pricey at the store and you don't really get as many as you want. But here I am just gluing that finding on. So here I have these gorgeous, these things are heavy, like, and they're shaped like coral. So they're like this, you know, emerald and forest green gradiated beads. I paid $22 for the strand. It's probably hard to tell because the twos are backwards, but I go to a bead show here in North Carolina. I think it's called the Triangle Bead Show. I shouldn't say go. I haven't been in years because I have so many beads. It's ridiculous. But what I think is amazing about their beads is they have all these unique beads that you can't find at the store. I paid $8 for this strand, and they're just incredible. I think they just stand out. They make your jewelry stand out. And so I was trying to decide here if I was going to use these colors in along with the seashells. I have these are like a navy blue gradiated white and like a sky blue bead. I'm not sure if when I rinsed off the beads if the color came off of those or not. I don't know. It's hard for me to tell. But here's a seashell that I realized I already had the finding attached to because I had the idea to make coastal statement jewelry quite a while back and just never followed through with the idea. And so I'm going to use this black shell, as you'll see. And these are just shells that we find along the seashore. I do not pick up a whole bunch of shells because I feel like it's kind of taken away from the aesthetic of the sea. I know that the shore is not going to run out of shells. I know that the ocean is not going to run out of shells, but I just think you shouldn't take what you're not going to use. So these are some of my favorite finds. I would love to go to Sand Dollar Island this summer. That's here in North Carolina over, I think, near Emerald Isle. And I really would love to go there. But the thing is, I heard they drop you off. And then when they drop you off, they come back an hour later. So I'm like, oh, the blood. I don't know if I could do that or not. But anyway, so here I am attaching the tight bond to this jewelry finding and this shell as well. Again, it was an epic fail later on when you see me putting it together. But let's get past that for now. I'm going to be quiet so you can enjoy this part of the video. And I'll be back in a second. Did decide I'm going to use the black and white beads here. I thought that I was going to like these gorgeous turquoise, like dark, deep turquoise blue beads. But I didn't like how they laid when we got ready to lay out the design. So you'll see that here. But this is just the selection process of finding which beads I want to use. And a lot of people do something that I know many of you are probably going to recommend, but it's not how I'm made, right? But they lay out their design on a jewelry, on a necklace board, or on a bead board, or they draw it out in advance, or they lay it out and then they put it together. I'm just not that type of person. I like to try to figure things out as I go along and just decide what design speaks to me, what do I love, what do I like. And so I'm actually making these designs so that they can be layered with chokers, or they can be a choker, or they can be layered with other like singular stone necklaces. And so that's why I'm trying to decide, okay, what do I want this design to be? Do I want it to be the choker or the longer necklace that will then go along with some other necklaces like that you'll layer on? So I'm all about, I love layering and love layering in jewelry. So that's what I'm figuring out here, is how I want the design to go. I did end up not using the turquoise blue. I didn't end up using the yellow, but I am going to use those in another design. So stay tuned. I also had the idea to paint a lobster on that white shell. And because I haven't practiced the lobster yet, I didn't want to practice with you guys. So stay tuned and you'll see how it all turned out. So those beads were $24. I think the blue ones were like $18. And so some of the shells already had, again, their necklace binding glued on. And then, again, make sure that you use the Gorilla Glue or the E6000, because the shells are so heavy that the tight bond is not going to, it's not going to hold. So here I am using a 20-pound fishing wire, and it truly is fishing wire. You can also buy it from the store. I get my monofilament fishing line from Lowe's. You can get it from Walmart. It's probably less expensive at Walmart. Here again, I'm just surfing through beads to decide what I want to use. Yesterday I went to Michael's and I got these lobster claw clasps, but these are actually for keychains. Now I do love those jump rings because I'm going to be doing some bandana and handkerchief necklaces that I saw, but just keep in mind that I did find out that's a split ring that's on that huge lobster claw clasp. But the reason I wanted the large lobster claw is because the shells are heavy, so you want to make sure you have findings that are sturdy enough to hold your designs. Those were crimp beads. I think they were the 2.5 millimeter, and here I am, I always use extra, so I encourage you, use or cut more thread, not more thread, but more monofilament line than you're going to need, because there's nothing worse than getting to the end and then finding out you don't have enough, and now you got to cut another piece and you got to string all over again. So I'm just opening up the jump ring so we can get started. So here I decided that the blue beads, because of the V at the top, they weren't going to lay right. So I ended up not using those. You can skip past here and see where I finally got started. And then the cream colored beads I also did not like against the turquoise color. So I chose those when I used the grayish and cream and white colored seashell. So you can skip past here, but this is just where I'm deciding what I'm going to do. Be sure that when you do start the design, you put your crimp bead on, that you feed at least the first inch to inch and a half of your monofilament through at least 2 or 3 beads. This is going to give strength to your necklace when you go to put it on the clasp and close it at the end. Oh my gosh, these tiny little beads, the holes gave me a run for my money. The holes are so small, and so you do have to keep that in mind. And again, like I said, I hadn't made necklaces in so long, I hadn't even thought about it. but you have to think about the millimeter of your monofilament line or the string that you're going to use, because you have to make sure that it can go through the beads. And if you're going to put those beads on the end, remember I had just said that you need to be able to fish through at least the first 1.5 inches. And so I'm not going to be able to do that with these tiny beads on the end. So just keep that in mind. But your bead hole is going to be determined by the size of the monofilament that you're going to use. So you want to have a couple of different sizes. This was all I had, so this is what I used today. So be sure also when you're doing the necklace that you have the same amount of beads on each side. And then also what I realized too is because of the size of the lobster claw, I could have taken at least 2 of these beads off. I may restring it, but not on this video because I didn't want it as long as it was. But you're gonna see when I go to hold it up that the tight bond let me down as it related to the seashell. So it ended up falling off and I had to re-glue it. And then I had not used the Gorilla Glue in so long. But anyway, you'll see it. So here I am testing the length. You always want to test and see where it is and how it hangs, where it falls. This was longer than I wanted. I shouldn't have been pulling on it because I knew I wanted it to be more like a choker. And when I went to adjust it and check on it, you'll see that it fell. And now I have to go, and now I'm fighting with the Gorilla Glue because I've not used it in so long. I'm like, what the heck? So now I'm poking holes in it, trying to see if I can get the glue out. No glue is coming out. I'm like, oh Lord, let me put my shirt back together before we have a wardrobe malfunction. So trying to get the glue out, but again, I think there's like a plug in there or something. So I remembered that I had just purchased a color key, like a what's it called, a color key. So I put that on the end of it, and what this does is it allows you to push everything from the bottom up. And so if you have a color key or don't have one, get one from the beauty supply store. You'll be so glad that you did. And it'll help you, you know, push your glue forward. Because other than that, I probably would have had to throw this away if I couldn't have gotten that plug out. So after a few good squiggle wiggles, I was able to get it out and able to get the seashell put back together, and so I'm gonna have to, of course, sit it to the side, but you'll see how it turned out at the end. But I definitely didn't try it on again. Oh, I love, love, love how the gray and the cream color and the beige just go together with this beautiful shell. You'll see at the end that this shell actually looked like an alligator or a crocodile face. That's so weird. I believe in marine spirits. That's another talk for another day. I'm like, So when I saw it look like a face, I was like, okay, I should have paid attention to that. But anyway, look how gorgeous it turns out. I'm still doing the same process here. You're putting your crimp bead on, you're putting your jump ring, and then once you run it through the necklace, you're going to fish your monofilament line back through the crimp bead and around the jump ring, and then back through the crimp bead, and then you're going to use your flat nose pliers to secure it in place. So hopefully it translates here. So here I am. So see, you wrap it around, push it through that hole, and then you're going to pull it taut. Like once you get it through there, y'all, I was like, look, where's a magnifying glass and you need it. And then you want to be sure to leave a little bit of give right there, because you don't want your necklace to be so tight that the string pops later on. So I probably was trying to find my flat nose pliers. So you're going to leave a little room, And then you're going to start putting your beads on it. So let's see how this one turned out. I hope you love them. They're really great. I know they're simple, but I am working on some even more like exciting statement pieces. But I think to get back started, I did pretty good. Anybody could wear these. They could go to the office. You could wear them to the beach. You could take them on vacation. And again, I think they're just so beautiful because they are a part of the coast of North Carolina and maybe South Carolina. I'm not sure which beach, but I think this is North Carolina. My two favorite coastlines. So God bless you guys. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you soon. Because this necklace, the seashell base was already on there, I didn't have to worry about the glue or anything like that. I love how it was coming out like a choker, because I love a choker style. I don't really love long necklaces. Even though I think they can be pretty, I prefer chokers. And so be sure to try your jewelry on before you cut your strings, before you put your final side on, your final clasp, and make sure you try it on and that you love it, because you don't want to have to go back and redo it at the end, okay? So I think they came out really great. Oh my gosh, for the first necklaces that I've made literally in years. So I think they're beautiful. Look how I told you at the end, it looks like a face. Does it not? Oh my gosh, like a prehistoric dinosaur. Like, what is really going on? But these, I think the gray beads may be labradorite. But anyway, stay tuned for my next video. God bless you guys. See you soon.